Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Madam President, and the fellow senators. Afternoon, sorry. Time passes fast. Okay. I would like to, before presenting to the Honorable Chamber, to welcome back the independent senators to contribute to the debate. And they've always been very constructive in the past, and I consider that this is a plus for us to have them here today. Madam President, I rise in this honorable House regarding the resolution to authorize borrowing in the amount of the, you said, $20 million US, equivalent of 54 million, from the Exim Bank, the Republic of China on Taiwan, for the purpose of financing the COVID-19 response project. I rise to support the proviso of the bill in principle, advancing the genuine and sincere support for measures to be taken in the form of a project to mitigate against the effect of COVID-19. However, I will refuse at the same time to endorse any possible misplaced approaches at this time and by this administration holding up any detour signs to any sinister back road. And I say back road, inclusive of front roads, highways, shortcuts. In the last couple of days, Madam President, the Oxford Dictionary published what is considered to be a first. In the past, there's been one word that they've singled out as the word of the year. This year, they've actually published 16 names of these words. And not surprising, one of these words includes COVID-19. It shows you the significance that this pandemic has had on the world over. Within the St. Lucian context, Madam President, one of the words that we could put on the top of the charts is the roads. And I say roads very cognizant of the fact that our people have conjured a tagline, and it's a simple tagline: action speaks louder than roads. If we have to follow the breadcrumbs of the amount that's been funded for COVID-specific projects to date, and I will not challenge the figures that have been reported to this honorable House, it is in fact an amount of 15,384,450. But when we actually examine and audit the amount actually spent on COVID-specific projects, excluding our debate this morning, it amounts to just over 160 million. So let's do the maths. 160 million has been requested and debated and approved, but as far as the tangibles go, we can only account for, and as reported, 15.5 million. And this, let me give you this 15.5 million, the breakdown. Amongst the components of this response, it's called relief, it's called emergency response, it's called achieving fiscal stability. Under the guise of borrowing, we've gone through $160 million, and we have not added the 54 for this morning. So, previous senator was quite correct, leader of opposition business, in saying that by the time we check the needle on our national dashboard, it'll be well over $200 million. You can contend. Out of the $15.5 roughly million dollars accounted for to date for COVID-specific allocations, we have figures like $1.57 million for the procurement of protective equipment, PPE, 3.2 for medical equipment, and 4.6 allocated for the refurbishment and upgrading of the Victoria Hospital, albeit still in an incomplete state. And the effort is to transform her to the proper functioning of a respiratory facility. The question is, Madam President, do we need another $4.6 million to achieve this endeavor? Senator opposite said, we're ready. And she repeated, we're ready. But is Victoria Hospital ready as we speak? Is Victoria Hospital ready? No. It is incumbent on the government to answer not only to me but to the people. Is Victoria Hospital ready? Madam President, we are not a foolish people, you know. And even social commentary will tell you, the Calypsonians will tell you, the talk show hosts will tell you. And one calypso that comes to mind is, where the money gone? Where has the money gone? 160 million as opposed to 15.5 million. You tell me, Senator. The Salvation Labour Party, Madam President, is certainly not averse to providing plausible and sensible approaches to addressing our unfortunate COVID pandemic. And some of them has already been outlined by Honorable the Senator, my lead counsel on this matter there. But as always, not to mention that the eyes appear to be unwilling to yield on the highways and back roads and byways. Sad, isn't it? So you see why I alluded to the term, the roads being placed at the top of the charts. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, just very recently advocated the use of 3 tests in support of testing, testing, testing. You can never stop testing. The CDC just said that. 1, they need a test when you're leaving. 3 to 5 days afterwards, they require another test. And more importantly and significant to the St. Lucian context, they require a test before returning to the US. So invariably, Madam President, what we will have to do is to test the citizens before they go back. So we go back to 1 coming in, 1 going back, and to protect our people, 1 whilst they are here. The senator opposite alluded to the fact that Barbados is different from us because their tourists don't intermingle and interface with the locals. Same thing applies there. You see it all the time. You have cruises, you have tours, you have walks through Grosile and ancillary with tourists and sometimes not even wearing masks. Let us be consistent. We cannot go wrong with testing. And to your question as to borrowing money and spending money, let the tourists make it mandatory that they pay for the test. So that takes away that problem. You don't have to pay for the cost. It is a component of travel that you test. Because we make the laws here. We make the laws in our country. And, Honorable Minister, we spoke about, through you, Madam President, Honorable Minister for National Security. National security, yeah? So we are very graced, Madam President, to have him in the House. So the question is the side door, the front door, but the back door. What is the situation, the status of our surveillance? Can we contain our borders? Or we have to refer to another calypso that say, Mr. Prime Minister, close our borders. So do we have to close our borders? Or do we have to conduct surveillance with the resources, with the money that's been borrowed in the house to keep our borders safe? We have done that and the people are still coming through the back door? That is ineffective, Madam President. That is ineffective. And so a report should be tabled right away as to what accounts for the breach. Why are there so many breaches and we are so worried? Because Senator, remember, through...
Do not be distracted by the rumbling.
Yes, I am not distracted, Madam President.
Level.
I am going to direct everything through Madam President.
You will ignore the rumbling.
Yes. Through you, this was very much anticipated, Madam President. Through you, I want to again ask the Minister for National Security, what is the status of our surveillance when it relates to the back door? Is it because that the equipment is broken down? Is it because that we need more equipment, we need more manpower? But there are breaches. Admittedly, you have just said that there are breaches. So I would like you to, in your note-taking, to actually refer to whether you have to go through the Ministry of Finance. But it's not done. And we keep saying that we are ready. Are we ready? Through you, Madam President, are we ready as far as national surveillance and national security? The author of a recent article in the well-renowned Forbes magazine, Susan Rohan Keller, she drew our attention to some important factors. We cannot speak too much about social distancing. And the learned senior contributor of Forbes magazine, she contended that in the age of travel and without the United States, Great Britain and others as our source markets. But listen to what we have. How easy it is to have social distancing within an international airport when you have to go through long queues to go through the security protocols, and you have to end up touching surfaces that are very frequently touched by other people. Of what use would be your PCR test, DNA based, and then you go into the airport and you start touching all around and you're very, very much compromised. Very much likely, if there is any infection on the surface, you will contract it. So that is one, that is social distancing, difficult in airports. The flight itself, 6 feet of free zone. The airlines want to maximize the capacity. And some of them are telling you that we're not taking out the middle seats. How easy or how difficult is it to social distance on a 3, 4, 5, 6-hour flight? We just saw recently, Madam President, today is Thanksgiving. Did we see the pandemonium at the airports with people trying to go home to see their friends, their family, and not foreigners, but loved ones? And we speak about every country has a level of indiscipline, and we talk about tetwid. These people that we so revere and so rely on for our source market, you pani tetwid. So we go back to the issue. We go back to the issue that we have to be augmenting the level of testing. Through you, Madam President, Minister for Health is right here. So she could well take some notes as well.
Senator, let me draw your attention to 44.1. When a senator persists in tedious repetition either of his own arguments or the arguments used by other senators in the debate. Now, you've mentioned testing.
This is for reinforcement.
Many people have mentioned testing.
So should I desist from talking about testing?
I'm just drawing that to your attention.
Yes, standing orders.
So
yes.
that you can move on.
I will move on. I will move on, Madam President, and without any indiscipline, I'll beg your indulgence in just reinforcing simply that testing is ultra important, and I will not get away from it. So, Madam President, I will go on the record to boldly contend that certain major aspects of our country's COVID-19 response has undoubtedly been mismanaged, clearly as evidenced by the current state of preparedness or lack thereof. And I mentioned before the incomplete status of Victoria Hospital, and that is supposed to be our principal hurricane COVID shelter, you know. That is supposed to be where we go to. There's no capacity. There has also been an undesirable level of incompetence on the part of the administration. And I point to hit and miss policies. Do we keep the fishermen locked in? Do we send the fishermen out? Do we close the bars at 4 o'clock? Do we open the bars at 6 o'clock? I appreciate that we are operating within a very fluid and dynamic environment. But we need to nail down the policies a little more. So we ask again, Peter of boring you, what is the hold up in requesting a second test? Is it because of external third-party influence? I'm just asking. It is ultra important. We also need an objective re-evaluation of our national priorities. And these should be sent back to the drawing board. And a hint here, before your application, your request for $20 million US again, these plans have to be revisited. And I give you one hint. In your application for approval, just a little hint, you can put in social safety nets in there. It'll make a big difference. We spoke about earlier in the chamber, Madam President, that the CMO gave guidelines and the CMO approved conditionally. But interestingly, I've never heard any admonishment from the health experts, and they clearly state that we don't know, we cannot verify that the bottle came from this shop or from that shop or from that shop. We cannot verify. But yet we have the gurus in here who can verify and say that it came from here or it came from there. We need to be scientific. We need to be scientific. At least, the least that you could have done is to do the contact tracing and say it was traced back to Senator here or Senator there. But this is not done. It's not done. There's a time when we have to fact check. I know Donald Trump doesn't like that exercise at all, fact checking. What I want to fact check here today, and at pains as to going against what my senator colleague said about the borrowing and the terms. So we hit in the 20 million US borrowing right on the head. I contend that it is not such a favorable deal. Let us look at the facts, because we're fact checking. We said that, and the senator, Madam President, was very correct. Last time I checked the London Interbank offered rate, which you could just call the LIBOR. She quoted 0.25. It's a fluctuating rate, and correctly there's a 3-month and there's a 6-month. Yesterday it was actually 0.25. So if we add 0.25, 26, 27, to 1.5. So we have a borrowing interest rate of about 1.71, thereabout, circa. But if we look carefully, another side of the terms, we have a 30-month borrowing repayment period, and we also have a 66-month grace period. You add these two together, you get 96 months, which is 8 years. At the moment, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank has a preferred rate to local banks at 2%. And you know what's amazing, Madam President? The local bankers are not even impressed. They're not scrambling to get money. And that is because of the gross liquidity in our money market at the moment. Nobody's rushing. No banker is rushing to the ECCB, I want money. And probably, on a point of speculation, this is why, contributing to a syndicate of banks, we have a lot of liquidity and we can lend out money. It will be interesting to know how much easier it is for local persons to actually secure loans for commercial purposes. I would hate to bypass this one, Madam President, because Senator opposite insists on characterizing the dissent on a particular occasion here in this Honorable Senate as a dereliction of duty. However, I wish to remind ourselves here today, we have to define dissent. Just one day before we were actually sworn in, Senator Joao and myself, on the 11th of November, 15 members of the Hong Kong legislature resigned en masse. They resigned en masse simply because 4 of their colleagues were dismissed by mainland China and the legislature for what they considered to be a breach and a threat to national security. National security.
Senator, let's get back to Order 37, which is the debate at hand.
I'm responding directly to a presentation made by...
Senator, you do not rebut. The leader of government business rebuts. You can occasionally... So there's
no latitude,
Senator, I'm speaking.
Yes.
You can occasionally reference something said in the
That's what I'm doing.
No, you're not doing it occasionally. You've done it consistently. So just take my advice and continue as if it is your submission and not that you have to refer to everybody else.
Point well taken. Point well taken, and I'll end to say that.
And remain relevant to the debate. Yes, I will.
Remain relevant. So I return back to the 20 million US that is being debated here today. But I want to put out a word of caution to the administration. In the effort to safeguard lives and livelihoods, we have to look at the basic requirements. The people are hungry in this country. People are hungry. People are starving. People don't have money. The bare essentials are absent. So redirecting and repurposing this loan from agricultural feeder roads, there's no problem with that. But we can re-engage sometimes, Madam President, and we can still lose focus. So we want to focus more on people rather than roads and highways. With this, Madam President, I thank you for the latitude and your indulgence. I rest my case.